We live in an age that's just obsessed with self-optimization, right? Hacking our habits, becoming the best version of ourselves. But what if I told you the philosopher Alan Watts had a totally counterintuitive idea? He said that the only way to really change is to stop trying altogether.
So, this ancient poem, one that Watts loves to talk about, sounds like a total contradiction, doesn't it? I mean, be a dead man while you're living. How can you be alive and dead at the same time? And how on earth could that be the secret to a good life? Well, it turns out this very paradox is the key to understanding a huge trap, a trap that so many of us fall into. Yeah, that trap is the endless, and let's be honest, super frustrating cycle of self-improvement. It's a feeling I'm pretty sure we all know a little too well.
I mean, have you ever been there? You try to be more patient, but then you just get angry at yourself for being so impatient. Or you try to accept your anxiety, but then you get anxious about whether you're accepting it the right way. It's like running on a hamster wheel, going nowhere fast. And you know what? There's a really good reason it feels that way.
See, Alan Watts pointed out this core paradox. We are completely stuck with ourselves. He saw that whether we're trying to reject the parts of ourselves we don't like or trying to accept them, we're basically doing the same thing. We're still trying to do something to ourselves. And here it is. This is the real heart of the paradox. That part of you that wants to change, the restless, dissatisfied part that's always seeking a result, the voice in your head that says, I'm not good enough. Well, that's the very part you're trying to use to fix the problem. It's kind of like asking a thief to guard a bank, right? It's a setup for failure from the get-go.
Okay, so if trying to change yourself is a trap, let's look under the hood. Why exactly is this effort so, well, completely doomed to fail?
This really breaks down the whole game perfectly. On one hand, you have trying to change yourself, which is basically an act of rejecting who you are. On the other hand, you have trying to accept yourself, which is an act of approving of who you are. But you see the common thread, right? Both are moves made by the ego for the ego. They're just two different strategies in the exact same pointless game. And Watts had this great way of looking at the ego. It's not some evil villain, he said. It's just a mechanism. Its whole job is to seek results. And that's super useful, for finding food or building a house. But the problem starts when the ego turns that function back onto itself. That's when it gets, as Watts put it, all clutched up. It literally starts chasing its own tail. And this metaphor just perfectly illustrates the futility of it all. The ego trying to overcome itself through sheer force of will. It's as absurd as a mosquito trying to bite an iron bowl. I mean, just picture it. The mosquito's little needle is going to break every single time. The effort, no matter how sincere or intense you are, is just not equipped for the job. All right, so if all our trying is useless, where does that leave us? What are we supposed to do? Well, this is where the whole thing just flips on its head. The solution isn't some new strategy or a better technique. It's the profound and kind of scary wisdom of surrender. And here's the crucial point. That death of the ego you hear about in spiritual traditions, it's not something you achieve. It's not a trophy you win. It's that humiliating, frustrating, but ultimately liberating moment when you finally, truly see that you just can't do it. It's the moment the mosquito's little needle breaks against the iron bowl. And in that total failure, the struggle just stops. And this, right here, is the answer to that paradox from the beginning. The whole search for surrender ends the moment you realize you can't make it happen. In that moment of complete, honest helplessness, the very thing you were chasing is suddenly revealed to have been there the whole time. You stop trying to hold on so tight because you finally see you never really had a grip in the first place. So, what does life even look like after this kind of shift? What happens when that frantic, result-seeking part of you stops trying to operate on itself? Well, you start to enter a state of flow, a kind of harmony with the way things really are. In Taoism, they have a name for this natural, spontaneous unfolding of everything, the Tao. And Watts loved that the Chinese word for nature literally translates to self-so. Think about it. Your heart beats self-so. Your hair grows self-so. The Tao is just realizing that you're a part of this whole effortless process, not some separate pilot sitting outside trying to steer it. And the way you put this into practice is something called Wu Wei. Now, that's often translated as non-doing, but that's a little misleading. It doesn't mean just sitting on the couch and doing nothing. It means acting without forcing it, without all that frantic, anxious striving from the ego. It's really just the art of getting out of your own way and letting life, which is you, by the way, live itself. There's this amazing quote from the Taoist sage Chuang-Tzu that just nails what this state of mind feels like. The mind becomes like a mirror. It doesn't try to grab onto anything or push anything away. It just receives everything, but doesn't try to keep it. It lets reality flow right through it without leaving a scratch. And where does all this lead? Ultimately, it leads you right here to the present moment. See, the ego is obsessed with the past, which is just a memory, and the future, which is just a fantasy. When you finally stop striving for some result down the road, you arrive fully in the here and now, which, if you think about it, is the only place life has ever actually happened. Okay, I know this can all sound a little abstract, a little out there. So to really bring it all home, Watts used to tell this wonderful Taoist story, the parable of the second immortal.
So the story starts with this simple cake seller just living his ordinary life. But then a priest comes along and convinces him that this ordinary life just isn't enough. He tells him he needs to seek a higher state, to go find an immortal. And so the cake seller leaves everything behind to go on this spiritual quest.
So after a bunch of failed attempts to find enlightenment, our cake seller meets a trader, and this trader tells him about an immortal he knows. And the way he describes him is full of these little clues. He says this immortal isn't separate from nature. He is nature. His powers are just the ordinary functions of the universe, hidden in plain sight.
The cake seller is blown away. This is it. This is exactly what he's been looking for. So he begs the trader, please, just let me see him. Let me understand his secrets. He's right there, on the edge of his seat, waiting for the big reveal. And then the trader delivers the punchline. He says, the magic to make the immortal appear is this: to eat rice 3 times a day, talk with your neighbors, watch the seasons change, and chew watermelon seeds. In other words, the secret to this enlightened state was to live the exact ordinary life the cake seller had left behind. The secret he'd been searching for all over the world was right there, in the simple, everyday acts of his own life. And in that moment, the cake seller realized he had found the second immortal, himself.
And Watts really sums up this whole perspective with this one powerful idea. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. We suffer not because life is some huge problem we have to solve, but because we treat it with this grim seriousness, this constant striving, when maybe, just maybe, it's supposed to be more like a dance.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. What if this entire struggle for self-improvement is built on a completely false idea? What if the person you're trying so desperately to become is actually the person you've been all along?